Welcome into Imagi Fantasy Football. Today we're doing our 2021 Fantasy Bold Predictions. First, we'll start with Shri.
So to start it off, I think my bold prediction is Keenan Allen finishes as a top 3 wide receiver. The Chargers offense right now is electric. They have a star running back in Austin Eckler. The wide receiver core is solid, and Justin Herbert coming back in his sophomore year after having a promising rookie season. Keenan Allen, you already know he's going to be a wide receiver 1 this year, and I predict that he's going to end up with a top 3 finish. Really, there's a lot of wide receivers that are kind of uncertain this year, and I feel like Keenan Allen is one of those guys, one of those surefire guys that you know he's going to get you a good amount of points every week. 100 receptions last season, 992 yards, 8 touchdowns, with an average of 9.9 yards. Those numbers can't really be beat. And Justin Herbert here having more than 4,000 yards, over 30 touchdowns. The 10 interceptions is a bit bothersome, but this guy probably put in some work over the offseason. You're going to see Keenan Allen come back, and that's a lock right here. Top 3 wide receiver, Keenan Allen.
Yeah, I definitely like that, Shri, because with Keenan, you look at other top receivers, maybe a DK Metcalf or an AJ Brown, and AJ Brown and Julio Jones are now competing for targets, and with DK he has Tyler Lockett in that offense. But I feel like with Keenan, he's the easy favorite in that offense, and Herbert already loves him as we saw last year. So I feel like he could easily do this.
Yeah, another thing I just want to point out is Keenan Allen. If you take out the first game where Tyrod Taylor was the quarterback, and you take out Week 15 where Keenan Allen was hurt, he basically didn't even play. If you just take the pace he was on during that stretch through from week 2 through week 14, he was on pace for over 180 targets, 125 receptions, over 1,200 yards, double-digit touchdowns. And if he has a season like that, which honestly I'd expect for him from this year, he's definitely – that's not even that bold, honestly. Top 3 wide receiver is definitely in his range of outcomes this year.
No, yeah, this guy, Keenan Allen, he finishes with 100 receptions, despite the fact he didn't even play in Week 16 and 17. Like Nav said, barely played in Week 15. Week 5 against the Saints, he put up 11 points, but I think that was all in the first quarter because he got hurt in that game too. And despite missing, so pretty much he missed 4 games, and he still put up 100 receptions, nearly 1,000 yards. Herbert loves to throw to Keenan Allen and Austin Eckler. So top 3 wide receivers absolutely in Allen's range of outcomes.
Yeah,
I just like to add on.
Yeah.
I just like to add on that Hunter Henry left too, and this guy had 93 targets last year. And if Eckler comes back, he might eat into some of that, but I think Keenan's going to get a majority, maybe 60% of those, 50% of those targets. There's really no one else in that offense, and it's so high powered that I think Keenan will eat up all those targets. Mike Williams, I mean, he's a really good player, but he's not like a target monster. He's more of a deep play guy. So I definitely think this is possible. Next, we have Arjun.
Yeah, so as you can see on screen, I believe my bold prediction is that CeeDee Lamb will finish the season as a top 10 wide receiver. The Dallas offense last year, when we saw with Dak Prescott, was absolutely, it was a historically good offense. Prescott was on pace for nearly 7,000 passing yards through the 5 games that he played. Let's think about that for a sec. 7,000 passing yards. Obviously, that pace was likely going to be unsustainable. But that just shows you how insanely good that offense was last year. And CeeDee Lamb was an insanely big part of that. In 5 games with Dak Prescott, he's a wide receiver 11, meaning in 12-team leagues, CeeDee Lamb was putting up wide receiver 1 production. He operated out of the slot 93% of the time last season, and he put up the best rookie performance from the slot that we've seen in this decade, putting up both the most receptions and yards for any rookie in the slot during this decade. And despite having the quarterback carousel after Prescott went out for most of the season, CeeDee still finished with nearly 1,000 yards and was the wide receiver 22. So, the sky's the ceiling for this guy with a full season of Prescott. He's a first-round talent, as we saw. He was insanely good at Oklahoma, insanely good in his rookie season. He averaged 86.6 yards per game with Prescott, which would have put him on pace for nearly 1,400 yards, and that's as a rookie. Dallas's defense also, they haven't improved much, which means Dallas is going to have to continue to throw the ball a lot. And when Dak Prescott comes back, if he comes back and he's looking like he did last year, I don't see how CeeDee Lamb just doesn't have an absolutely great year. And top 10, honestly, he could be top 5, and I think he's going to definitely take over the wide receiver 1 role in that offense next season. The O-line's back. Ezekiel Elliott should be better next season, which means the offense is going to be even better. CeeDee Lamb, he's insanely talented, as we know. So, yeah, my bold prediction for him is that he finishes the top 10 wide receiver this year.
Yeah, if Justin Jefferson wasn't part of the rookie class last year, I think we'd be talking about CeeDee Lamb as possibly has like an ADP of like wide receiver 15. CeeDee Lamb was great last year. He nearly had 1,000 yards. However, he did have over 100 targets, and his production with Dak Prescott there, that's going to be unsustainable. Like as you said, 7,000 yards. I don't know. No, I know that's not going to happen. And that means like he had like 86. He was averaging 86 yards a game. I expect that to go down to like about 75, but that's still going to be a very good season, maybe like 1,200-ish yards. Yeah, I think CeeDee Lamb could definitely finish the top 10 wide receiver, especially if his touchdowns go up.
Yeah, and also like Amari Cooper is also coming off an injury. He doesn't even know if he's going to be ready for camp. So I feel like CD can easily just even become like that wide receiver one, even though you have a good receiver like Amari Cooper in there. But I think CD will finish as the wide receiver one in that offense. And with that, he'll definitely have a big jump from last year.
Yeah, I definitely agree with this prediction. There's some stuff that does worry me, like Han said, like Amari Cooper cutting in and maybe even Michael Gallup making comeback here. But I think it's a definitely good bold prediction. And it's worth a shot with CeeDee Lamb.
Next, we have Nav.
Yeah, so my bold prediction is that Antonio Gibson finishes as a top 5 running back this year. So there's like so many things to love about Gibby. I like to call him Gibby. That's my boy. He already has an established rushing floor, as we saw last year. He was phenomenal on the ground. And his college production really wasn't up to par with like other players who were drafted last year. And yet he still had so much production. Last year through week 12, he got hurt in week 13, obviously. He was the running back 4 in PPR. He did this as a rookie without having preseason, without having much production in college. Imagine what he could do now. His talent is otherworldly. The sky is the limit for this guy. Ron Rivera compared him to CMC before last season started, even when Darius Geis, Adrian Peterson, and Bryce Love were still on the roster. Now all of them are gone too. J.D. McKissick had over 100 yards, 100 targets last year, and Gibson is obviously going to cut into that. Gibson is one of the premier pass catching backs in the NFL, just based on what we saw in college. What he can do with the ball in his hands is absolutely insane, and there's no reason that Gibby shouldn't take the majority of that work this year. The only main concern this year is his turf toe injury, but he suffered that last year in week 13. He's had 7 to 8 months to recover from that, and from what we've seen. Turf toe, it takes about like a month or two to recover from. So even though he said it's still affecting him, there's also been reports coming out that he's shown significant improvement from last year. And not only that, most importantly, he still came back last year and put up solid numbers. During the season last year, it was said the only reason that Gibson didn't get the entire workload for Washington was because he was still a rookie who had that limited experience. So they didn't want to overwhelm him. I think this is the year that they give him all that work, and I think he has the opportunity to finish as a top 5 running back.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely see that happening here. And like you said, J.D. McKissick is still a factor on that offense, but with Gibby's success towards the end of the season, even after dealing with this turf toe injury, I think J.D. McKissick is not going to cut into that too much.
Yeah, one thing though, like that I worry about with Gibby is like I do anticipate, like Nav was saying, him to take on that CMC role in this offense. But like what we saw with CMC last year, he was basically crippled the whole year. I mean, he tried to come back he played the first game, our first couple games, I think, or maybe the first game, but he got hurt. Then later on, he came back for the Chiefs game, got hurt after that, missed the rest of the season. So it's just interesting to see if Gibby's body can withstand that hold. But if he can, then he'll definitely finish high.
Look what he did, what Christian McCaffrey did like the past 2 years. The 2 years before last year when he got hurt, Christian McCaffrey was an elite RB1, RB3 his sophomore season, which Antonio Gibson's heading into. And then, of course, like his legendary season 2 years ago now, where he was RB1 by such a wide margin.
Sure.
I definitely see this happening, but I don't know where this narrative is coming from that J.D. McKissick is just going to be like Antonio's going to get all his targets, because it sounded like J.D. McKissick got less and less role as the season went on. From weeks 9 through 17, he had 3 games of 10 targets and 2 games of 14 and 15 targets. So while I think Antonio Gibson is like 100 times more talented than J.D. McKissick, I just don't see him cutting into J.D. McKissick's role. I think J.D. McKissick is just going to be a pest like he was last year.
You said weeks 10 through 17. Is that what you said?
9 through 17.
Yeah, well, 9 through 17. Gibson was hurt for a large stretch during that time. And then even he sank. He wasn't completely healthy during that stretch. I think this year he's going to come back fully healthy. And then I think that's when we'll see JD McKissick, him like phase out JD McKissick.
I mean, with McKissick though, like it's not like he was. I mean, McKissick wasn't necessarily ineffective. Like he was a strong part of that offense. But the thing is, like I feel like Gibby is more effective if you give him that pass catching role than McKissick would have been. But it's just interesting to see if they'll actually give him that.
Yeah, personally, I think they'll see that Gibson will be more effective than JD McKissick. That's what I think this year. And that's what this top 5 RB prediction, that's what it hinges on.
Yep.
All right, with our next bold prediction, we have Rohan.
Okay, so my bold prediction for this year is that Chris Carson will finish as a top 7 RB. With Chris, he was already having a good year last year, but he did get injured. And the Seahawks, they had big weapons in DK and Tyler Lockett. But to add on, going into this next year, the Seahawks have fired their offensive coordinator in hopes to fit Pete Carroll's scheme of running the ball more. And like I said, even in a pass-heavy offense last year, Carson finishes the RB19, missing 4 games. So he didn't even play the full season. Still finished RB19, missed 4 games. And he had 2 big receivers like DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, each demanding over 125 targets. So the offense was clearly pass first last year. And also last year, I don't know if any of you guys watched Seahawks games, but often you would see how Russell Wilson would fleece Chris Carson at the goal line and take a little dump touchdown pass with the tight end. I think this year they're just going to feed Chris Carson, get him more touchdowns as well. And Carson has also demonstrated his ability to be able to catch the ball. I mean, last year he had 37 receptions, only played 12 games. Again, that's pretty solid for a running back on a pace in the 16-game season for 48 receptions, and now in the 17, 51 receptions. And Carson was the RB11 last year in the games he was healthy, or he was on pace to be the RB11, averaging over 15 fantasy points a game. I think that if he stays healthy, he can easily sustain that. And then moving on towards the Seahawks looking to run the ball more, if they add all that together, he'll easily catapult much higher, and I think he'll reach top 7. To end it off, Carson's backfield mate, Carlos Hyde, he's actually not on the team anymore. And with Rashad Penny, who would be the next guy up, he's coming off an injury too. So it's interesting to see if he'll even be healthy. And then the other two, Travis Homer and DJ Dallas, they're not really established in that backfield. So I feel like Chris Carson, he'll definitely demand the touches in there. And I feel like with a new offensive scheme, he'll definitely move into the top 7 RBs this year.
Yeah, you're making some really good points here, but I'm just having trouble, believing that he's a top 7. I agree. Like you said, he was projected to finish RB11. Like I see that like being more reasonable or like more attainable, but just wrapping my head around RB7, it's just that when you got guys like who are being ranked at RB7 right now, like maybe Eckler, maybe Zeke could finish it like if he falls a bit, but I don't see just Chris Carson, especially we're not really that certain about that backfield. So you're making some good points like how Rashad Penny's just going to end up taking Carlos Hyde's role, but I don't have enough confidence to say that clearly.
I see what you're saying, Shree, but with Carson, with his backfield mates and Penny and DJ Dallas and Travis Homer, they're not threats. And Penny's coming off an injury. They didn't re-sign him. So like they clearly don't have trust in him. I don't see them doing anything with him. I feel like Carson's just going to dominate that backfield, and they want to run the ball more. They're really looking to go back to their 2013, 2014, like relying on defense and running the ball. They want to do that again. Pete Carroll has made that clear. So I feel like Carson could like sneak past guys like Jonathan Taylor or Zeke and just get into that top 7. But yeah, I see what you were saying.
Yeah, good point.
Injuries do happen, like to the top running backs too. Like we saw last year, Christian McCaffrey, Saquon Barkley, Ezekiel Elliott was affected by injury because of Dak Prescott. So and this is also a bold prediction video. So I think Chris Carson finishing as a top 7 running back, I think that's a perfect bold prediction. It hinges on some other stuff going his way that he can't really control, but it also has a lot to do with stuff he can control. So I think that's like a perfect sweet spot for him. I could definitely see Chris Carson ending up as a top 7, like potentially. It's not likely, but maybe he can, and he definitely has the capability of doing it.
All right, with the last bold prediction of the day, I have Jonnu Smith finishing as a top 7 tight end. So I think Jonnu Smith definitely has the talent, but I think it also goes on Bill Belichick, what he's been saying about him. He said he's the best tight end in the league right now. And this is a league with like Travis Kelce, George Kittle, Darren Waller. So if Bill Belichick is giving him this kind of praise before he even signed him, then they went on in the offseason to give him like 30 million guaranteed. You don't just guarantee someone $30 million to put him as like a blocking tight end. And in the past, we've seen this double tight end duo in Bill Belichick's system really prevail. They didn't really add in. They added wide receivers, but no one there can really be a wide receiver one. Kendrick Bourne, Nelson Aguilar. He was in Las Vegas, but we know what kind of team Las Vegas is. So Jonnu Smith, he has some. He's very athletic as a tight end. Plus, the tight end position in fantasy is kind of odd. There's after the top 3 tight ends, it really kind of falls off. So I think he could definitely sneak in. He has a lot of touchdown upside too. With Cam Newton, another year in the offense, he's gonna throw more than like 6 touchdowns that he had last year. So I think Jonnu Smith could definitely sneak in there with how weird the tight end position is.
Yeah, I like how you mentioned like the 2 tight end sets in Bill Belichick offense. Like obviously he's been doing it recently, but then like if we go back like 10 years, obviously we saw that Aaron Hernandez and Rob Gronkowski, they were great together. But it's like I'm kind of worried if Jonnu will be able to fit into that role, because I feel like Hunter Henry, like he's established pass catcher, where Jonnu is more of like a red zone guy. So yeah, like how do you feel like? Do you have an opinion on how Henry will affect him?
I think they can like coexist together. I mean, I don't think Jonnu is a bad pass catcher. He had like 70 targets last year, 40 catches. He did have 8 touchdowns on 40 catches, which is kind of high, but I don't think Hunter Henry will overshadow him, especially with the lack of talent at wide receiver. I think those 2 guys are like the main focus in that offense, other than like their running backs. But I think these 2 guys, they're their top receiving options. I don't see guys like Kendrick Bourne or Jacoby Myers surpassing them.
Going off what Rohan said here, like I'm just curious to pick like why Jonnu Smith over Hunter Henry. They both had similar pass catching roles in their offense. Maybe Jonnu's more involved. What led you to pick that?
I think Jonnu has the touchdown upside. He had 8 touchdowns last year. Hunter Henry had 3 or 4. I think Jonnu's the better red zone target too, so that should vault him into top 7. Hunter may catch more passes, but I think Jonnu could very realistically have 9 to 10 touchdowns this year. All right, that's going to end our 2021 Fantasy Bold Predictions video. Thank you everyone for watching. We uploaded a mock draft and breakouts and busts video in the last week, so make sure to go watch that. Like and subscribe, and again, thank you for watching.